We always love to talk about gold on this channel, but there is one metal which has been absolutely outperforming it and has recently hit all-time highs. That metal is copper, and today we are going to check it out. How's it going, guys? Ryan here and welcome back to another investing video, and today we are taking a good look at copper, performing some price predictions and some technical analysis, and talking about a few of the reasons as to why the price of copper has absolutely surged over the past few months. But before we get into that, guys, please remember to give this video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it, and subscribe if you want to see more of this sort of content. We cover investing, stocks, crypto and wealth management, so if that tickles your fancy, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell button so you're notified exactly when new videos come out. And also love to know your thoughts as well down in the comments section below on the state of copper and what you think it's going to do in the next few years. But without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. Before we do some technical analysis and take a look at the price chart, I just want to touch on some reasons as to why copper has been surging over the past few months and absolutely outperforming so many other minerals. And one of the key reasons is due to demand and supply. Basically, what is happening is the demand for copper is going up, and it's going up significantly. What you can see is all across the world, we are trying to bring online clean energy, clean technology through things such as, battery technology, including electric vehicles, solar farms, everything, anything you can imagine. And one of the key materials that is required for that is copper. So as a result, demand for copper is surging, and it is going to continue to do so in the future. When we're moving as a world to a cleaner energy future, we are going to require so much more copper in order to build all the batteries required to do so. Furthermore, there is a lack of supply. What we're actually seeing is a lot of mines are unfortunately having to lower effectively their cutoff grades in order to supply their clients, and that is purely due to the fact that there have not been many major copper discoveries over the past decade. So we're effectively almost, in essence, seeing a shortage, not of I suppose, a volume perspective, but from a grade point of view. The grades are gradually reducing in order to increase those mineral reserves and accommodate for the demand that is being caused by this massive push towards having clean energy. So welcome into TradingView and a look at the current copper price. This is obviously in US dollars, so keep that in mind. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually zoom out for you so you get a better picture of what is going on. And if that isn't one of the best looking charts I have seen in a long time, I don't know what is. That is a massive increase in value of copper. I'm just going to keep going out a bit further so you can see the history of copper as well. And you can see that in the past, back in 2011, we had a bit of a peak on the copper price. Now I'm going to basically put in a little line just to indicate exactly where that is versus where we are now, and then zoom back in over here just for a bit more clarity. So basically from this point, the 19th of March 2020, which was effectively after the huge dump caused by the pandemic, then effectively what we are seeing now is an increase in the value of copper ever since, and it has been a strong one. We went from a price of $1.96 effectively all the way up to an all-time high up here, and that was sitting at roughly $4.88, which is a phenomenal jump. It is more than 100% when we look at it. And what we're seeing is effectively a beautiful uptrend that has been occurring, and it has been very, very consistent. You can see that we had a few periods of consolidation when the price went up, breaking through a key point, the previous all-time highs over around here, and then consolidating back in a downwards direction. So if I just map that one out here for you, we have the typical flag patterns that you would expect to see when it comes to looking at these sorts of charts. So let's just plug that one there, and you can see it actually tried to break down, but the buying pressure was so much that it ended up bouncing up to this point here at $4.10, and then eventually breaking through in order to once again then retest those previous all-time highs at this point, which were, well, just established, and that was effectively at $4.36. We also then saw the increase in the value continue, and it went all the way up, and as I mentioned before, around $4.88. Unfortunately, the channel that had formed here has now been broken. You can see it tried to breach the top end of the channel, but unfortunately it failed and it went down and started to consolidate. I'll just chuck in another flag for reference to see exactly what was happening here. A similar type of scenario had effectively occurred as a result of this, and obviously with this breach that has occurred at this point, we then saw a big drop. And in fact, I think that drop that we might be seeing there may have actually coincided with the drop of Bitcoin on the 19th of May, which is interesting because you wouldn't think that Bitcoin would have an impact on the effect of a commodity such as copper. Gold, I could imagine it had an effect on, but not copper. So that is something very interesting to look at. Now, what we did see was a bit of support has effectively come into play here. You can see we had plenty of trading back in the past, right there, acting as support. Didn't quite reach those low points over here at 437, but it found support roughly around the $4.46 mark, which is awesome. And now what we're seeing is a small uptrend, and I'm wondering, is this actually going to continue, or is it going to break and then once again retest down here? And if it does break that point, we will be testing this mark, which was our previous level in my opinion. Now, this bodes well though from an overall perspective for the copper producers, and in the long term I would expect to say that we're not going to see this continue to drop in this direction. We're going to see it reverse, and the logic I'm using there is as follows. Firstly, from a technical point of view, if you want to really put in place a technical flag, for instance, what you can see is if we go all the way up there, and then if we basically grab the same info, let's keep going down, what we're seeing is a bit of a pennant is actually forming with regards to the price. So let me grab that, and I think maybe there's probably the best sort of point. We're seeing a pennant form. That is a bullish pennant, and the reason it's a bullish pennant is because it is occurring in an uptrend. We can obviously see that, especially if we bring a indicator in the form of a moving average. And let's use a couple actually. Let's use the 50-day moving average, and let's use the 200-day moving average to display this. So from a technical perspective, you can see that we've got a big uptrend occurring. Obviously a golden cross occurs at this point with the short-term trend crossing above the long-term trend, and that's when we started really trending upwards, which is great. But now we're also seeing this act as a point of support, strong point of support for the current price action. That's the 50-day moving average. Hopefully we don't see that fall. But worst case scenario, we've got more support here, and then we will have support in the form of the 200-day moving average there. So from a technical perspective, we're good. From a fundamental perspective as well, as I mentioned previously, we're seeing a huge increase in demand and a lack of supply. This for us indicates from a long-term point of view, we are going to continue to see the price rise irrelevant of the price action that is occurring right now. So as an investor, what does this mean for you? Well, it means a few things. Obviously, copper isn't something you tend to invest in as a physical good. So what you want to be looking at is instead copper stocks. And these can be anything from producers to people who manufacture copper products such as copper wiring, even all the way through to the end of the supply chain where we're seeing copper batteries effectively form. Anything that is copper related will have to increase in price, fundamentally due to the fact that the base resource, which makes up a large portion of these materials, is going to go up in price and therefore go up in value as a result. So what should you do? You should be looking at those sorts of companies, and you should be targeting the sort of companies which have a good steady production, which have a good clear growth strategy, and which have a supply into the future. And we're not talking like a couple of years worth, we're talking like a 20+ year supply of copper, for instance, or copper reserves. Even if we're looking at explorers, we want to be looking for those ones with very, very large volumes of copper. And typically when we look at copper as well, a lot of the mines actually have additional things in them, whether that be through gold or silver. So keep an eye out for those sort of things as well, because these are also commodities on the rise as well. I'd love to know your thoughts on the copper industry and the copper price down in the comments section below. And if you did enjoy today's video, please remember to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of this sort of content. We cover investing, stocks, crypto, and wealth management. So if that tickles your fancy, hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and make sure you come and check the channel out once again. And with that, guys, I hope you have an awesome day. I'll see you next time. Cheers.